Hello, everybody. It's January 1st, 2024, 5:43 p.m. Central Time. And I am here, we're recording. I'm going to try and make this as quick as possible. It's going to take hours for me to upload this in HD. You'll get it later tonight, most likely. Let's go ahead and turn on a display capture and bring you guys up to speed on what's going on. In case you didn't know, a very large earthquake struck today on the western coast of Japan, 7.5 to 7.6 earthquake, smack in the middle here, and then spreading out in both directions since then. You can see about 50 miles to the south, 50 miles to the north. Major movement, all in the 4 and 5.0 range, fault going southwest to northeast, northeast to southwest. Now, 6 days ago, I got on and did a live update, which got shut down while I was on live. But in that live update 6 days ago, going on almost 7 days international time now, warned North Japan, right here at where Hokkaido meets the north part of the main island, warned for 6.5 to 7.5 earthquake. Did that live, saved it as a video on my channel for like a day. It was shut down so many times while I was live, it buffered for half the update or more, and it was just unwatchable. Anyways, people did get the warning, I think. If you're not aware of what's going on, not going to talk about that now with my shutdowns. Anyway, big earthquake hit here, and it's worth noting that, again, the warning was issued 1 week before, basically 6 days before, and we're within the magnitude. The distance off is 285 to 300 miles. If you go by the north side of here where the earthquakes are, then we're at like 280, and if you go to the center of this where the 7.5 is, it's right on at 300 miles off from where we warned. So we're within the magnitude, and we're 300 miles from the warned location. I consider that an earthquake forecast hit for the largest earthquake in Japan in many, many, many months. And it's the first large tsunami that hit since 2011, according to the professionals. I don't know about all that. I'd have to go back and check the last 12 years to see if any other tsunamis struck. But a noteworthy tsunami did strike. I'm not going to be showing footage of that. That's all people's footage you can go find over on like X or Twitter or YouTube. So big earthquake striking there. Now, I have to tell everybody about this. I guess I probably should open up a, let's see, X-ray flux. Goes X-ray flux. Now this is 1 minute data. I don't know, well, let's see. There it is. Okay, so now that we've loaded, you'll be able to see we had an X5 solar flare yesterday. X5 solar flare. And to see which way it's going to go, we go to the Space Weather Prediction Center, and we also want to go check the Enlil SWA, or WSA. And we're going to hit play on this and just see if they have the actual solar flare, which way it's going to be going. Earth is the green dot at the center of this, well, at the center of these red and blues. The sun is at the very center, in case you didn't know. Okay, let's hit play. Come on. Look how long it's taking to load, right? So an X5 solar flare, wow. Well, looks like it's going to be hitting us. This is different views on Earth, side and from above at the North Pole. So one view is from directly above Earth, if you want to think of it like that. The other's to the side view, to looking side profile on, and that's the solar flare. The charged particles on the solar wind traveling towards Earth takes about 2 to 3 days for those charged particles to reach Earth. So 2 to 3 days for the physical charged particles to travel on the solar wind. And when they arrive, that's when we get a solar storm, when the charged particles and the solar wind are combined. It's a added effect between the two. Solar wind in its own right could be considered a solar storm. And then if you add a bunch of charged particles in it from an explosion on the sun, again, it's like rain in a hurricane. A windstorm in its own right is damaging, but a windstorm with heavy rain in it is even worse. So that's what we're looking at here. Now, let's go back over to Earthquake 3D and show you this quake here happened after the X flare, within hours. So yesterday the X flare happened, today we get our 7.5. But if we go back to the last X flare that happened, big X flare happened a couple weeks ago, and 2 days after the X flare, Iceland suddenly broke open and had a big eruption on the opposite side of the planet. So let's just recap. Big earthquake activity in Japan. We were looking for this to happen. A forecast was issued for this on my channel 6 or 7 days ago. If you witnessed that, you guys can, in the chat room, you can press 1 if you actually saw it live or if you saw the video on it. And now we're going to be looking for additional activity to spread from this location. And this is really, really what I would tell my viewers in Japan if I have any. We would need to watch here, guys, for the next few days to see, is this going to continue spreading up to the north and down to the south? Because look at that. That's 100 miles or more of an area that's broken with the big break in the middle. We would expect a fault to shift, but we can also see areas on either side compensate with similar sized earthquake activity. So look where the rings overlap here. We have a earthquake all the way up here in the Kuril Islands, and we have an earthquake all the way down here in the Ryukyu Islands south of Japan. And the halfway point between those two is the big earthquake. Do you see that? That's no coincidence. These two earthquakes struck first, yesterday and the day before. The new middle point got hit in the middle. That's the halfway point between the two previous earthquakes. These are like bookends on either side, and a huge break happened in between. But now you can see the rings overlap here and here. So the new halfway points between up here at the 4.5 and the big break, right there on Hokkaido. And the other halfway point is down here, right here on Kyushu. So we have two spots to watch now. We have to watch to see which way is this going to prefer. Well, think of this like a two-arm scale where we can balance to one side or the other. Now, let me open up a USGS reported earthquake to show you what's balancing and one side or the other of what, new people might ask. So let's just go take a quick look. USGS plate boundary map. We just broke right here in the middle. I just talked about the quake up here to the north and the one down here to the south from 2 days ago. Halfway point in between the two, you see there's a H-shaped plate boundary there. But zooming in, you'll see we're going northwest to southeast along a fault on western Japan. We're not on the plate boundary here on the east side. Instead, the west side of the plate boundary is breaking. That part goes up into Russia and beyond, across over into the North Pole and all the way back over to, of all the places, you see it. Now, this is, of course, on a 2D map, but this goes up, back, and connects to the North Mid-Atlantic Ridge on the opposite side of the planet. Or another way to look at it is this goes up over this way, connects back, and comes back down this way. And right here where the two meet, coming out of Russia and going back into the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, this is a supervolcano caldera that the professionals all missed and the Russians identified as a ridge 60 miles long, 30 miles wide, same size as Toba supervolcano, right at the start of the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. But look where it goes back to. Over to Iceland. We come back this way, and boom, we get back to the USGS map. There it is. So this side of the plate boundary, the west side, if you will, is moving. The west side of the H-shaped plate boundary here. Well, if this is going this way, then we have to watch over here as well. Third area to watch. So a lot is going on. So North Japan, South Japan, we are watching to see which way this prefers to spread. It's clearly going to the plate boundary and down to the southwest now. Or going from the southwest up to the plate boundary, which means everywhere west needs to be on watch for a huge break to happen in the next several days. So not only are we going to watch for, let's just put it at 6.5 level activity up at North Hokkaido and down at Kyushu, I would expect 1 magnitude less to spread up to the north and down to the south in the next several days. Where those rings overlap, I'm going to look for, in Japan in the next several days, 2 different 6.5 type earthquakes. One up north, one down south. Both most likely will hit. And the reason I'm coming to that determination, looks like both sides are moving. Well, not just looks like, it is. Both sides are moving. So it stands to reason we're going to see 6.5, 1 magnitude less on the south side, 6.5, 1 magnitude less on the north side. But 7.5's worth of energy has been put forth up into the plate, and it's preferring this side of the plate boundary so far. So I would look over to the west to the nearest plate boundary, and who does that put in the mix? India, Nepal, Myanmar. You see that? Now that's on the edge of the Indo-Australian plate over here. So I'm going to look for the bulk of this energy. Not only are we going to get 2 breaks on either side of Japan, just as this breaks and spreads out like we would expect, somewhat equidistantly spaced on both sides, wouldn't you say, of Japan? But we're also going to watch for the bulk of the energy to head over and out, path of least resistance, right across China, going around the outside edge of the Himalayan range. That takes us down to India. So I would think if the wave is coming across, here, let's get the rest of these quakes out of here. Oh, well, I didn't even notice. 4.6 struck earlier today over on the edge of the plate boundary at Myanmar. Hold up. There. Okay, so we're already moving there. So I'm going to keep an eye on this. I'm going to issue a forecast for this now. We'll have to warn the people in North India going up into Nepal, as far east as Bangladesh and Myanmar, and as far west as the Kashmir border with Pakistan, with the center of it being North India right into the Himalayan range at Nepal. We would watch for the next 7 days for a potential large earthquake similar in size to what struck over in Japan. This is on top of the other forecasts that we have going, and I could get into a whole bit on over here. New Caledonia is also due for the same sized earthquake that hit up here in Japan. So I think in the next few days, we're going to be seeing multiple large earthquakes going into this week, the next 7 to 10 days. Now let's get back to that solar flare. So the X-class solar flare sending charged particles towards Earth is, of course, going to intersect Earth's magnetosphere and ionosphere. Simply put, guys, charged particles come from the sun, takes 2 days to get here, and when they get here, they scuff their feet across the upper atmosphere of Earth. And when there's enough charged particles scuffing their feet fast from the solar wind across the Earth's ionosphere, we get northern lights and the southern lights, the auroras, the glowing air up in the northern hemisphere, for instance. Now that glowing air is electricity, straight up electricity, built up in layers, and it goes down into the crust of the Earth eventually, within a day. So first, charged particles get sent from the sun. Takes 2 days to get here or so, and then we get the glow up in the northern and south, and down in the southern hemisphere of the northern lights. That goes on for about a day. So now we're already 3 days from the point of the solar flare. And then, within a day of that, it goes down to ground. All that electricity goes into the crust and down to the core of the Earth. Then within a day or two of that, it comes back up with new deep earthquakes that are raised high off the planet here for easy identification purposes. We get new deep earthquakes that hammer in after solar activity. The core of the Earth starts to vibrate like a bass drum. So charged particles come from the sun, hit Earth, glow for a day, go down to the core, come back up as deep earthquakes. The whole thing takes about 6 to 7 days from the point of the solar flare, or charged particles or strong solar wind coming towards Earth from coronal holes. Regardless, it takes a few days for it to hit Earth, come down, go to the ground, come back up. When it comes back up, you'll see it with a bunch of new deep earthquakes and stuff like this. Huge earthquakes sandwiched in between the deep earthquakes. And if you look at the deep earthquakes over the last week, you'll see we have one red one up from several days ago up in Japan. We have another red earthquake, deep, raised high off the planet there over western Indonesia, and another set or series at Fiji. And the halfway point, or the triangulated halfway point between the three, puts several large earthquakes and eruptive activity over the past several days. Sandwiched in between our deep quakes and next to our deep quakes. Look at this. It's like a pincushion around Japan. And wouldn't you say that the big earthquake here is between, like bunny ears, between these sets of deep earthquakes that hit over the past several days? Again, it's kind of hard to see, but I can turn it to the side and you should be able to see it. 1, 2, 3 sets of deep quakes there. And then in the middle of it, That's where the big one comes up shallow and breaks. Let's talk about other things going on, because this isn't the only activity. I mean, a big tsunami and a big earthquake and a forecast for it. The people in Japan had a 6-day warning, but did they get it? Probably not. I don't know. I'll never know if the people got my warning or not. I'm guessing they didn't, because they all acted like they didn't know that it was going to hit. Maybe acted isn't the right word. They all displayed the signs of people who didn't know that a big earthquake was due in Japan. And I distinctly recall issuing the warning for it. So how did they not get it? Well, it's getting blocked. Now, speaking of getting blocked, let's go look up this earthquake down here in Southern California. I went and saw mainstream media report after report talking about this 11.3 kilometer deep earthquake. 4.1 now, it's 4.3, 4.0. We don't know really where they're going to come in on it. But I would like to just take the time to go put the coordinates in on good old Google Earth. Google Earth. Let's go zoom in and see what's there at the epicenter. It's out in the ocean. There's nothing there. Oh, wait. What are those? Check it out. Offshore oil rigs. Offshore oil rigs there and there for oil and gas. You may remember a year ago, that big oil leak that happened out here when supposedly a ship drug an anchor across an oil line or something. Oh, but our earthquake is 13 miles west of all those drill points, and they're drilling up here at the top, and then we go down, let's see, we're at 200 feet elevation here, or a negative 200. So these platforms are in about 200 feet deep water, and then we go from there down to here where the quake is at 2,900 feet below sea level. So these are up above this. They're drilling down and into this. They could even be drilling down at an angle over towards where the quake is. I don't know exactly where they're drilling, but I do know we're right next to the offshore drill points there. Look how many others there are nearby. None. The nearest others are all the way up here, off northwest LA and so forth. So we're way far away from all the other drill points. We're right next to the only ones that exist, and somehow this got hidden or missed by all the professionals. Now, you might also look and say, hey, look, it's the same sized earthquake, a 4.0 that was downgraded to a 3.9 over in Texas. Let's go pull the coordinates over in Texas and go see where this exact same sized earthquake struck yesterday. So we got one at the oil pumping operations off the coast of Southern California that the media missed. And I saw this was also in the news. I mean, it's not every day you get a 4 in Texas. So what's there in Texas at the epicenter? Oh, wait, what are those? Let's zoom in and see and wait for the image to load. What you're going to see as the image loads are pipelines, pumps, jacks, tanks, oil and gas, fracking. And Texas is well known for its drill points, so I shouldn't need to expound too much on it other than to tell you there's about 1 million different drill points around here, not exaggerating on 1 million. When we get over and we get into stuff like this. Which, again, we have to wait for my slow DSL connection to load. I could do a fax machine sound while a 56K baud modem, right? You guys want to play online Doom with me? All right. Old school. All right, now let's talk about this. So, drill points off the coast of California hit today. Drill points in Texas hit yesterday. 2 of the same size quakes on the edge of the North American craton. Now you see there's almost a same size quake. This one was also 4.0. They downgraded it to 3.7. So really it's 3 4.0s that struck in the last day and a half across half of the United States. What's here in Kansas? Anybody know? Anybody want to take a guess what's in Kansas? Well, I can zoom in on the area and we might actually be able to find stuff there. I can tell you there's an old oil pumping operation from the 1950s nearby this location within just a few miles. I always look 6 to 10 miles. So, old oil capped off with, and this is actually interesting that they used to do this, they cap off the wells with wood plugs and a few bags of concrete and then just bury it with dirt. So, to find the oil wells here, we could go around and spend time going down each road. You guys are welcome to go fact check me on this if you would like. We already had the previous quake striking over here to the east by southeast of Bennington, and I took the time previously to identify the oil wells there. We're not going to do that now. Again, you guys are welcome to go pull the Kansas State Authority, and they will they have all the old oil wells marked on their map if you want to go check it out. Kansas does have that information available. And what you'll find, again, is that they, in the 1950s and 1960s, they did a boatload of drilling out here, got as much oil out as they could, and then shut down the wells, capped them off, moved down to Oklahoma. But if you're lucky, you could zoom around, and you might even be able to find a still functional well here and there placed out along the roads. Again, I'm just zooming around to see if we could find one while I'm talking. So you'll have to take my word for it on this one being, and I hate to do that in a YouTube video, but I'm not going to take the time to look it up. You guys go look it up in Kansas, Bennington. Anyway, 4's going across the plate. Now let's take it down one step to 3's, and then you'll see add in Yellowstone and Southeast Texas to the mix. Well, what's up at Yellowstone? Well, we're inside the park at Yellowstone. So, I mean, you know what's there. We're right next to Lake Yellowstone. We've got a bunch of geysers there, geothermals. Down in Southeast Texas, though, what's down in Southeast Texas? At Smiley, Texas. You guys may recall I've previously covered Smiley, Texas in updates before, but I'm showing this for new people, so let's just go see all the way down, back down to Texas now. We all know what's at Yellowstone. I shouldn't need to show you what's at Yellowstone, but when I show you Smiley, Texas, I don't know if you're going to be smiling anymore. See all these white spots on the ground here? Every single white spot on the ground is really gray from gravel or whitish limestone gravel. Every one of these is an oil or gas well. Again, Texas is known for its oil and gas wells, but, I mean, come on, look how many there are. Just right here through Smiley. So we're on the edge of several. Let's get the nearest well, just for picture purposes. There we are, the famous shadow of the Jack of the Pump, almost like a sundial, telling you what time of day they took the picture. Okay, that's what's down in Texas. Oil and oil. Back up in Kansas, oil. Over in California, off the coast, oil, where the 4.0 is. 3.2 up at Yellowstone. And look, the exact same sized earthquake striking over on the east edge of the North American Craton in southeast Quebec, right on our arrow. So wouldn't you say that's all the same sized earthquakes going across the whole plate? 3.2, 3.1, 3.1, 3.2, down and around and back up to the northeast. Then we get 2 4s at the drill points. What does that mean? It means a wave has gone across North America equal to 3.2 all the way in the last 2 days. Back to the west, we're being hit with a new round of activity coming into the oil and gas pumping operations. Go back 2 days to the last earthquakes in California. Let me get those pink-colored earthquakes out of there. That's 2 days ago. So this is it. Looking at the smaller earthquakes, let's just quickly take a gander in and see what's going on, what's moving in California and on the West Coast. Like I said, Yellowstone moving with a significant sized earthquake. It does not mean Yellowstone's going to erupt. It's a sign of an incoming seismic shift, if you want to call it that, a seismic wave that's passing across all of North America and going around the whole planet, as obvious in the West Pacific. So what's moving in the Northwest? Well, let's go pull the coordinates. Amboy, Washington. This is interesting. What I'm about to show you, we're going to be going into the crater or on the side of Mount St. Helens. What does Mount St. Helens have in common with Yellowstone? Well, they're both volcanoes, of course. Other than that, they don't have much in common. They both get hit by the wave, the seismic wave, that comes across North America from the northwest. So there's the location in Mount St. Helens, or on the side of, or down below Mount St. Helens. But you have to imagine a seismic wave coming in and going across and dropping off the earthquakes along the way. When it gets to Yellowstone, it follows the edge of the Craton down through Texas, makes a bend through the area I just showed you in Texas, back up into Oklahoma, and then up the East Coast, following the edge of the Craton up to the northeast. That's the way the flow goes, and that's the way the earthquakes went, and that's why they're all the same size going across these areas. There's one lone earthquake out in central South Washington, next to Royal City, Washington. Now, there is something here worth mentioning and looking up, and I have to bring this up in light of the earthquake over in Japan. My viewers contacting me about the earthquake in Japan, letting me know that it happened 20 miles away from their big nuclear reactor over on the western side of Japan. But good news, guys. Just like 2011 with Fukushima, the system was already shut down, and they already had the rods out for inspection. So there's no worry. Why am I bringing up Fukushima and rods? Royal City, Washington is just right here next to the Hanford Nuclear Waste Storage Facility and the old nuclear reactors from Hanford that they built in the Manhattan Project that they disassembled, left the caskets, moved the material all right here, and keep it here. This is also right next to the LIGO Gravity Wave Sensing Station. These two long lasers pointing back into their housing, looking for a vibration in the lasers from gravity waves. And they say they're looking across the universe, but it's just chance that they're pointing this at a right angle towards the heaviest elements on the periodic chart. Right? That's where that quake is. So, Mount St. Helens and next to the nuke place. Up to the north, I'd like to go check really quick and see what's up here next to Twisp, Washington. Twisp. I don't know, and when you don't know something, it's important to find out. So I'd like to remember what's up here. I don't know if I'll be able to do that either. Let's draw on our borders and labels just so we can see if there's any nearby, well, anything worth mentioning. Places, borders, labels, anything worth mentioning. Lucerne is the name of the nearest town. Lucerne. Okay. Now, what I'm looking for are, well, things that could stand out as odd. How about the Glacier Peak? That'll do things for you. Glacier Peak, where they installed all those new seismic monitors. USGS, concerned about it, raised the alert level, or threat level, not alert level, threat level, just talking about the potential of eruption there in the future. All right, well, we're right next to it, I'll say. Well, okay, that's close enough for me when we're next to a stratovolcano and we get a significant earthquake. Well, something worth mentioning. That's what's there. So, volcano, nuke, volcano. Down to the south, a lone quake in Idaho. Not going to bother looking that up. That brings us into a series of quarry blasts. Further south, we go right here where between Lake Tahoe and Pyramid Lake. There's something right here between Lake Tahoe and Pyramid Lake. A supervolcano that the professionals missed. Here's Lake Tahoe. Here's Pyramid Lake. I'm going to turn off the borders and labels. This thing, this giant oval shape here. Now, right next to it is the Sierra Army Ammo Depot with all its underground bunkers. Never mind all that. This thing here, this giant oval shape between Lake Tahoe and Pyramid Lake, ancient caldera, huge. Anyway, earthquake swarm right inside of it. Next to it, here is Reno, the town of Reno, Nevada. Nevada? There's Reno. This is the giant caldera. Wait. Is this labeled now? Hold on. No. I thought I saw a caldera label for a second. Now let me show you one that is known. This one here down to the south. This is Long Valley Caldera, Mammoth Mountain volcano on the side of it, ski resort. Okay, this one's the known one. It's oval shape as well. It's lined with volcanoes, gets hit with earthquakes in the center and around it. And this one up to the north, they somehow missed. Again, it's much bigger and much more ancient. That's where the swarm is. So supervolcano is swarming there. We've got a significant earthquake, but nothing to be alarmed about at Yellowstone as the wave is passing both through here and here, heading down to here and across the plate. The seismic wave that I'm talking about. Now, parallel to this, or somewhat parallel, across over in western California, right along the coast, there's another big stack of earthquakes. So I just showed you this. This is inside of the caldera. It's indisputable that that's a giant oval shape between Lake Tahoe and Pyramid Lake. I could tell you more about it, but we won't take too much time. And then over here, we're at the geysers of California. Now, I shouldn't need to tell you what's at the geysers of California. Geysers? It's a volcano. This is Clear Lake volcano that we're jumping over to. So one more time, look at the stack. And look at the stack. Both sides of California getting the wave, going to the volcanoes, just like up to the north at Mount St. Helens and over to Yellowstone. So do you want to see geysers of California? Here, let's go search. We'll go show you the geysers. Geysers. Hey, they don't look like geysers from here, do they? Instead, what you're going to find are pipelines, drill points, and power generating stations where they're taking the geothermal steam with the pipelines up to the surface and then producing power, electricity. So you'll find the turbines on the hillsides. Well, here's a substation, electrical substation for it. There's one with steam coming out of it. If the image will load right now, it's blurry. There we go. Okay, so you get the idea. We're on another volcanic segment. This is on both sides of California, going back and looking at it. Now it should just be basically obvious to everyone. There's a wave coming in from the northwest. It's going over to Yellowstone, down to Texas. It's also coming in from the northwest. It's going down to California and splitting on both sides. One over to the east, one going along the coast. This is the San Andreas, the creeping section of the San Andreas. And we're watching the creeping section of the San Andreas for a 4.5 to 5.0 earthquake. That was what we were watching for up until today. And I warned right here, and it hit right here. So if I'm warning the creeping section, and instead the Elsinore gets hit off the coast of LA next to the drill points, the wave came down, bypassed the spot where a natural break would have occurred, and it sought out the drill point. That's what it looks like has happened. Anyway, we were looking for a 4.5 earthquake to strike here by tomorrow, and instead it struck down south. It's more than 200 miles, just like in Japan, it's 300. So, I'm within the magnitude, within the time frame, and 300 miles off from where I warned. Trying to get it down to 200 miles. When I can get it down to 200 miles consistently, I will retire. Let's go down across central California and then break out over into Nevada. So here in central California, on the east side of California, along the coast, that's that supervolcano I showed you that the professionals know about. This is Long Valley Caldera over in eastern California, where that little pocket of earthquakes is, right in here. So the other supervolcano's moving right there. We go down to the east by southeast, and we actually go to another volcanic field, then to the nuke test sites. So Yuba Hibi Craters is right here along the California-Nevada border. So if we go east by southeast down to here, Yuba Hibi Craters, right here. And these are, again, old volcanic blast points. Shallow magma chamber that blew there. A few hundred feet down. 500 feet down, there's a magma bubble. Blows. Okay, so we go from up here at the supervolcano, down across Yuba Hibi Craters, and then we get down to here where it's like Mercury. Let's get the coordinates for the nuke test sites. So why are we moving at the nuke test sites? Well, there's no nuking going on there now. These are microquakes, zeros. These are man-made earthquakes, though, from the faults that were man-made. So they're not doing anything there now to blow anything up, but faulting in the ground has occurred because of the amount of blasting that's happened. This is the famous Doom Town here, Frenchman's Flat, Operation Rise Line. And then here are a bunch of underground nuke sites, actual spots where they did explosions. Let's go ahead and turn on the Google Earth community. And people have taken a great amount of time to identify most of these blasts and get information on them. So here, Operation Dormouse Prime. Dormouse Prime. 10 kilotons on April 5th, 1962. Here's another one. U.S. nuke Operation Akushi. Is that right? Akushi. 20 kilotons on February 8th, 63. And there's just hundreds of underground tests here. We have our surface tests that were done here. And then in the 1980s and 90s, the Brits and the French came in with us and did more up here. underground, of course, at that point. Now, that created man-made faults, which get hit as the wave is going across a area. So we're going from supervolcano to volcanic field to nuke site. One quake in between the two, and we can go pull that. That's out of Goldfield, Nevada. And there's buttes at the surface, fissures, small volcanoes, cones across the area. Volcanic cones, fissures. Oh, wait, what's this? Oh, wow. Looks like we've got some tanks parked out there. Looks like maybe a target practice range. Is that what it is? Nothing go wrong there. Is that a blast at the surface? Hold on. 1.7 kilometer depth. Well, I don't know. Don't ask no questions, right? Let's go on and carry on down to the south. So we get across Southern California and we space out our earthquakes from that point on. They're somewhat equidistantly spaced, wouldn't you say? Like a diagonal line coming out of Ridgecrest, going down to the east by southeast out into the middle of the Mojave. Ridgecrest up here, Mojave down here. Now, I'm going to just look up the quake here. We're going to look up the quake here. And then we're just going to draw a line between the two. So, Coso Junction. This takes us into Coso Volcanic Field. Are you seeing a common theme for the things that I'm showing here? It's not that I'm cherry picking and showing you just volcanic quakes. I'm showing you all the small quakes as we go down to the south. Now look what's here. These are rising obsidian domes. Now you see all this gear that's here. These are geothermal turbines, pipelines, and drill points where they're getting the steam out of the ground, out of Coso Volcanic Field. You can even see that they've drilled into an old spatter cone there. Now, the actual cones that still exist, Volcano Peak, here, this busted open at some point in the more recent past, and this is what happens before they bust. This is there now, so someday in the future this will likely blow. This one already did. You can see how many times younger events have taken place. Coso Junction right there. And that's where we start the quake. Then we go through Ridgecrest, down through the test sites for Raytheon and Boeing, and we end up out here in the Mojave Desert at a place called Barstow, California. There's something out here at or next to Barstow, and that's a place called Ludlow. But there's also something else here, something that got me in trouble in 2011. In 2011, on radar, a series of plumes appeared in the middle of the day in the desert in July on a sunny day without a cloud in the sky. Moisture started coming out of the ground here in huge plumes. This is Pisgah Crater at the Lovick Lake Volcanic Field out at Ludlow. It was on radar, there was so much. It was being picked up and taken all the way to L.A. and then dissipating by the time it got to L.A. That's how much moisture was coming out of the ground there. This location here is where the biggest earthquake in California's history, or at least recorded history, struck in 1999, the 7.7 to 7.9 Hector Mine earthquake. Anyway, here, right across the highway, is another volcanic field, and you can see, so over here, it's a plateau, and we have, well, let's see. Yeah, there we go. The Black Mountain Rock Art District is what it's called, but it's a Black Mountain Wilderness, Black Mountain Volcanic Field, and then there's the Opal Mountains here. So these are the Opal Mountains, these are the Black Mountains, and they're actually a series of lava flows out there. And you go down across here, and we have more ancient buttes. It's all volcanic across this, ancient from a long time ago. So, volcano to volcano across test sites. Nuke test site up here. Super volcano here. Ubehebe craters here. Questionable out there. Going up to the north, volcano there. Volcano there. On Western California. Now we connect through, we go through the Bay Area following the San Andreas. going down across the creeping section of the San Andreas. One lone 2.8 out at San Luis Obispo Fault. Going down to the south, we're next to our oil pumping operations off the coast that I talked about previously at Lompoc. Let me show them to you. So oil rigs are here off the coast of Lompoc. And here off the coast of Santa Barbara. See Toro Canyon, Carpinteria. And our earthquakes go from next to Lompoc over to where we go on shore. What's on shore? Right here, if we go on shore, it's called Ventura. And if you zoom in on Ventura, look at all the oil pumping operations here in the foothills that go right down to the shore of Muscle Shoals. All of these are drill points. Now, I don't know if it's too smart to be drilling and extracting oil along a seismically prone fault like the San Andreas, Elsinore, and others. So oil rigs here, here, and here, going on to land at Ventura. Pretty obvious. Once we get down to the south, there's our 4 that struck next to the oil rigs down south. And then I could spend some time looking these up if we really wanted to prove a point. Let's go pull a 1.5 over here at Castaic, California. Now, there's a dam here, a big dam. This earthquake, though, is at 13 kilometers deep. We're going to put the coordinates in. Check it out. There's the dam I told you about. But right across the highway over here on the other side, there's something over here at Castaic. See all these? Well, there's houses, of course. But behind the houses in the foothills are a bunch of pads that are scraped out of the sides of the hills. And these are all oil and gas wells. Drill points. And we keep on going over this way and we get a whole bunch more. The Termo oil field, as it's called. The name comes up right there. Termo. All right, well, now you get the picture. So we're on the edge of an oil pumping operation. Sound familiar? There's more over here. Going over to the east, let's go just take a quick look down to Lakeview Terrace, California. I hope I'm doing my due diligence to show you guys that the volcanic locations and drill point locations are being hit as the wave is going across this area, these areas, and the volcanoes and the drill points have one thing in common. They're puncture points in the plate. That's it. Okay, so anyway, back to here we are. We're in, north LA? North of LA at the Los Angeles National Forest. Indian Springs, Gold Creek Center, and the old gold mines. Literally. No exaggeration. Anything else here worth mentioning other than the Gold Canyon Trail and Gold Canyon Saddle? The old railhead that used to go in there to get that stuff out of there? I wonder if we have a gold mine collapse. Is there anything else? I mean, wouldn't you think that the mines would be similar in that there would be fracture points in the plate? I would. Is there anything else here nearby worth looking at? I don't think there's any actual oil and gas drill points here anymore. There used to be some back in the day. We have to go back, I would think, maybe 50 years for the oil pumping that was done in here. There may still be functional wells sporadically placed out throughout these areas. So I don't count it out. I'm just saying that there's no huge oil field here that they've now sold off and gone into residential. They build the houses directly over the old oil fields. Okay. All right, enough of that. So, are you getting the picture? All of these locations have something in common. The wave that is traveling across the plate is seeking out a path of least resistance to the spot that's the easiest to break, whether it's volcanic or man-made drill point or if there's a nuke site next to it with electron cascade taking place, as well as discharge into the plate. Let's recap this whole dang update. Big earthquake over in Japan. Warning was issued 6 to 7 days ago when I did a live update and got shut down at least 3 or 4, maybe even 5 times while I was live. I kept getting back on and trying to do it again, and people were watching and asking what was wrong and stuff. And, of course, that was a week ago. Now here we are. The quake is hit within 300 miles of the warned area. As I'm talking, a new 5 just broke here in Japan, so it's carrying on breaking. Let's just go see where it broke. Break on the north side, south side, right in the middle. Where'd it go? Where is it? North side. Well, we're breaking all along the peninsula. I'm not shocked to see that when you get that big of a break. And now the plate boundary, like I said, goes up into Asia. So we have to watch to the west. We have to watch for up to a 7.5 to 7.6 to be striking over at India, going at North India over the next several days. This means Europe should also be warned, as well as all the way out to Iceland. We should also get the warning out. I'm going to have to do a full forecast for this in the next few days. This update is just to show you what has hit and to give you the big warning for what to look for over the next few days. Central America, South America, we didn't even really talk about, but just take a look at it. Over the past 2 to 3 days, going around South America to the south, Point Nemo, all the same-sized earthquakes going to the south and to the north, following our arrows. So, arrows point to the north, and then around over through to the East Caribbean. Arrows point down to the south, travel underneath, and go out to our X's here. That held true again this week. Nothing's changed there. You can trace it all back to here. It's spreading out. If you look at the South Pole, another way to look at it is, 3/4 of the star fort of South Pole, has been hit. The 5-sided star fort of the South Pole, that 3 sides of it are moving. If you don't know about the star fort plates, I don't know what to tell you. If you're in Iceland, I would recommend you guys pay attention to your seismic as well as your professionals. Probably pay attention to the seismic first and to the professionals' advice second, because I don't know what's going on in Iceland. I've been watching On the Pulse with Silky, and she's kind of been telling us about a little bit of a conundrum that's been developing there where they can't seem to manage to take care of the people in Grindavik. I don't know what's going on there, other than I would urge everyone to pay attention to the seismic activity. It's always the precursor to something going on. It's how they knew to turn the camera ahead of time to catch the lava flow breaking out when that breakout happened a few weeks back, that you might notice that they turned the camera beforehand a few minutes, right? Maybe a minute or two at least. Well, even if you have a few minutes notice on seismic, that's good news. I don't know what they're going to do for evacuations for the people in Iceland. I think Silky's idea for having a ship, some kind of cruise ship or government ship that's in the harbor there for the people to go to, is probably the best idea. For real. That way they don't have to try and drive. You're dealing with a few hundred families. A cruise ship should be able to handle that. And I'm sure there's probably some kind of tax write-off the cruise ship companies could get from the Icelandic authorities or something, right? Wait, do they have taxes in Iceland? Do they have Christmas in France? All right. Word up and much love to all of you. I don't have very much more to talk about. We could talk about Europe and what I issued the warning for in Europe. We had warned in eastern Italy at the Adriatic Sea into Bosnia. Bosnia has now been hit. However, this is 5 days beyond what I was looking for. It took 5 days longer. But it's spot on in the location, and I mean spot on. The location is listed as, survey says, northwestern Balkan region, and they have it next to Sarajevo. It's literally right in the middle of Bosnia. I'm not bragging or anything when I tell you about areas that I warn, and if they get hit, it's just so we can check it off the list and see if the areas that we're warning are hit or not. So Japan, check it off the list. Bosnia, check it off the list. West Coast United States, check it off the list. Texas, check it off the list. Quebec, check it off the list. We had actually, hold on. I had warned the New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine region here, and I did incorporate in southeast Quebec. Is this Quebec or Ontario? Hold on. Sorry, guys. Yeah, it's Quebec. It's right at the border, but it's Quebec. All right, there it is. So I just have to tell you that, again, if, rare earthquakes in spots where you don't normally see them, or if you start picking up in magnitudes. The reason there's a 3.2 up in Quebec is because 3.2's worth of energy went across the whole plate. That's why we got 3.2s down in Texas, 3.5s over in Kansas at the oil pumping operations, 4s going back across over to where it came from. So bigger, and then it spreads out. But it's not that much of a loss to go from 4s down to 3.5s, down to 3.2s across the plate. That's not that much loss of energy. So the wave that is going across North America is a very low frequency wave, and it's dropping off the earthquakes where the wave comes up. I would imagine it like waves in a lake, all equal to 3.1 to 3.2 going across the whole body of water. Okay? All right, this update's going to take forever to upload. Right? Keep track of the time. The time right now is 34 p.m. Central Time. Whatever time you see this, that's when this thing finished uploading, processing, YouTube finished reviewing it, and I was able to get it out to you. That's why it's unacceptable for me to be on this amount of shutdown. I have to upload using a phone line. We are moving, but it's going to be 2024, and I have to get a home loan and a business loan and all kinds of other stuff that I don't qualify for right now. It's bad news. You shouldn't have to move to try and, when you previously were able to do this, and then the government shuts you down. I'm worried that when we go to the new place, that's going to get shut down. But we'll see. Call me a pessimist. Actually, don't call me a pessimist. I already do that enough.